Hey everyone, so if you order the dual caliper brackets, this is what you're going to get for basically one side. There's obviously another side with another bracket and hardware and whatnot. You'll get also a tube of Loctite. This will be used for both sides. This is how you're going to install it. So obviously what you're going to want to do is remove your brake stuff, hardware, all that and whatnot. You're going to also remove all the emergency brake inner drum pieces, which I will show you how to actually still have in working e-brake using the secondary caliper as your e-brake, since you're not going to have the stock one anymore. So I'm going to just flip this over. As you can see, I've already cut the heat shield. To remove it, you're going to basically have a set of bolts over here, which would originally hold that emergency brake hardware. That's going to be removed, and then there are there's 6mm or 5mm bolts. They have a 5mm hex that they use to remove it. You're going to go through one of the lug holes, remove them, make sure you clean them out, and maybe even use a little bit of heat, because they tend to kind of be a little rusted in there, possibly strip out. So you remove those two, and then the shield will be basically free to move around. You won't be able to remove it unless you take the hub off, which you don't need to do. But if you are doing your wheel bearings at this time, that wouldn't be, it would be super easy. You could take it off and then just cut it off the arm. So once you have it loose, you're going to just want to take your tin snips and cut it. Once you get enough of it cut, you'll actually then be able to kind of pull it forward and remove it and finish your cuts or clean it up, whatever you need to do. Put it back on, install just the two upper pieces of hardware that you removed, and now you should have it looking like this. Also, just double check to make sure that it's trimmed enough to be able to place the bracket on it. So next, you're going to want to really clean up this whole front here. This is just some 320 sandpaper. You're going to want to make sure it's super smooth. If you can, go all the way down to the metal again. It might be painted. You're also going to need to clean up this edge right here. The bracket on this part is very tight against that edge of the, I guess, wheel bearing housing, we could call it. And you're going to want to basically just clean up this whole area over here, make sure there's got no rust buildup on it. If your arms are powder coated, like I said, this is a very tight fit here. You might have to clean up the powder coating. Obviously, if you have, power tools or something that you can clean it up easier, you're more than welcome to use it. I'm just using a piece of sandpaper just for an example. So clean this up really well. Honestly, clean it up better than I'm cleaning it up here, but this is just for a quick install. Now, it would also be a good idea to chase these threads if you can. If you can't, take the supplied bolt and just run it in and make sure it goes in all the way smoothly and doesn't hang up anywhere. It's not going to go all the way to the end, but it should go most of the way in. This one actually is not going as far as it should, so I'm just going to take a wrench, 13mm, and just kind of work it all the way in. It's going to go fairly close, but it'll bottom out internally. So let's take these off. And now it's nice and free. So after you do this, you're going to want to just clean these out with some carburetor cleaner or any sort of cleaner that you can get in there, even just compressed air. If you don't have anything handy, just want to make sure they're mostly clean. Take your washer, put it on. At this point, you're going to put your Loctite on the bolt and put in one side. Just get it started. Do the same for the second one. Loctite, and just get it started. You're going to take your 13mm wrench, so snug everything up with the wrench. Come onto this side and make sure everything is nice and flush. It's very important that this bracket sits exactly flush with everything. Unlike the stock brakes, there's no real room for misalignment. Since there's no bushings in it, it's all solidly mounted. You're going to torque these to 45 foot-pounds. That's a good idea. You're basically going to have to get, there's a crow's foot adapter or an open-end adapter for your torque wrench. There's different names for it, but torque them to 45 foot-pounds. And now we're going to install the rotor and the caliper. Alright, so what you're going to do now is put your rotor on. It's a good idea that you replace your rotors at this point. I'm going to use a pair of wheel bolts to just hold them in place. Now, spin the rotor at this point. Make sure it's not contacting the backing plate, which, to be honest, it probably will be, because when you took it off, it's very likely you tweaked it a little bit. You can just usually bend it back by hand. It's pretty easily bent. You can either use a screwdriver and kind of pry gently against the face of the rotor to kind of put it back in place. Take your caliper. The part number for the caliper is 120-9690 or 120-9689. They're physically the same in terms of their dimensions, but they internally have a different bore. So depending on what master cylinder you're using will kind of dictate what caliper you want. I have the 90s with a 3/4 master cylinder, and that works well for me. But even handle length and stuff like that is gonna make things vary just a bit, but that'll be a good baseline. So if you come down here, you're gonna see this little nub here. There was a little clip on it right here, which I removed. Yours might break, yours might be broken, yours might be missing, but you are gonna have to take it off. Be careful of the line. This one is all rusty, so I didn't really care. But just be mindful, you don't want to break any of your brake lines. Again, while you're in there, if they're rusty, this is a perfect time to change them. So you're going to take your caliper and you're going to take one of your bolts and you're going to put the caliper on, put some Loctite on this socket cap bolt, screw it in there just loosely. So once you have this upper bolt on, just make sure it's snug. Now if you have your lines run already, good time to put it on the caliper, and then you want to put some fluid in there. You could tilt it straight up like this and just let it gravity bleed. It'll still bleed mounted, but if you have the lines already ran, it's a perfect time to kind of make things just a bit easier. If not, it's no problem. So you're going to get this lower bolt in. Okay. Again, Loctite on that, and these are also torqued to 45 foot-pounds. And with this lower bolt, it comes very close to the arm over here. So if there's any kind of rust buildup, it might interfere ever so slightly. You could just kind of file it down, or with this one, it was just barely touching, so it wasn't a big deal. Once the caliper is installed, again, give the rotor a little spin, make sure that nothing's touching. At this point, you're going to want to put the brake pads on. Now, these brake pads can actually be installed with the caliper in place. I've even done it with my wheels in place, depending on what size wheels you run and the style of wheel. Yeah, you can sometimes get to the pads without even removing a wheel. So what you're going to do is just pry this bar over, slide it out. You're going to take your pads. I like the Polymatrix A pads. You're going to slide it in so that they're just about flush with this piece right here. Slide in the second one, and then simply place these back in place. And then, so same thing with this, line it up. Lift up the locking bar, locks in place, And that's it. Your pads are installed. Everything spins nice and freely. And you're done. So guys, here's how you can retain an emergency brake, or even have it set up as kind of like a line lock, which is how I have mine. I have to redo this. Obviously, it was kind of just thrown together to kind of get things going. But what I have here is a manual valve. This is actually plumbed in line with the rear stock brakes. This is not hooked up to the hydro. So if I were to close the valve and press the brakes, now I'll only have front brakes and no rear, which works really great if you need to do a burnout or line lock or whatever you want to do, so you don't roast your rear brake pads and rotors and everything else. Now if you want to have an emergency brake, you would press the brake, hold it, close the valve. Now your rear brakes would be held tight to the rotor and you'd have an emergency brake. I wouldn't leave this like this for, you know, days or weeks. I feel like it might eventually kind of start to leak, because I don't think they're really meant to be held that long. But it works great if you're just parked up or something like that. Another option, which you could also do, is do the same thing, but instead of putting it on the rear brakes, just put it on your line that goes to the two calipers from the hydro. So come off the hydro, connect to a valve, and then go to your rear calipers. Pull hydro, hold it, close the valve. Now the wilwood calipers will be acting as an emergency brake. That works really well. You won't be able to use it as a line lock like this if you had plumbed it to the rear, but again, if you don't need it and you just need a, you know, quick way to have a working e-brake, this is perfect. You can also have something that locks the handle, but the valve is pretty cheap. I got it from Jegs. There's a few different ones available. Never had a problem with it. I've had this for many, many years. And that's about it. Thanks again.